everyone, this is PK Entertainment and we're back again, and here now we have another video for you, and we're just going to give some quick thoughts on the main movie trailers that were revealed during the recent Super Bowl LVIII match. And this was really the first look at the films that could go on to be amongst the biggest of the year of 2024. And we'll get straight into it with the biggest trailer that most movie fans were looking forward to, and it was of course the first teaser for Deadpool and Wolverine, this being the third installment of Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool character. The major hype being that this will feature Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, who we know for a long time played the character from the Fox X-Men series. This will see Deadpool finally entering the MCU, and following the franchise's recent struggles with its Phase 5, many people will ask the question as to whether this third installment of Deadpool can indeed be the saviour of the MCU. Well, in terms of the trailer itself, to be honest, I was a bit underwhelmed. Whilst I haven't been a big fan of the Deadpool films, considering all of the hype and build-up that we've had for many months now, I was probably expecting a bit more from this. As a teaser trailer itself, I suppose it did the right thing by keeping it very Deadpool-centric. It really didn't show anything that was too spoilerific, which is what a trailer should do. Now, in terms of the story itself, it looks like the TVA, or the Time Variance Authority, which are an organisation set at the centre of time looking to preserve the sacred timeline by tracking down variants of people whose existence threaten it. Of course, you'll know all this if you did watch the Loki series on Disney+. And for some reason, the TVA need Deadpool, and it looks like he breaks free from their rule in some capacity, and we see this when we get some very well shot choreography as we see Deadpool taking down all of the various soldiers before he comes across Wolverine in the final shot. And the fact that they didn't show Wolverine in full normally would be a very good move for a teaser trailer, in many ways to whet the appetite for when the movie comes close to release. A bit similar as to what was done for Spider-Man No Way Home. But the issue here is that the behind the scenes photos of Hugh Jackman in the Wolverine costume were leaked many months ago, much to the point where Ryan Reynolds posted official photos himself on his social media profile. So you kind of think they could have just shown Wolverine, as it's no surprise, but I guess they had to cater for those people who don't really follow this stuff online all the time. So will indeed the movie go on to be the saviour of the MCU and put its Phase 5 back on track? Well, there's no doubt that this is going to be a big box office hit, with both previous Deadpool movies in 2014 and 2016 both grossing well over $700 million worldwide without releasing in China. So this was obviously going to be a successful outing, plus the added cachet of seeing Hugh Jackman's Wolverine will bring all the interest and eyes to it. But my big issue with this project is that it seems like it's just another cash grab exercise to capitalise on the popularity of both Reynolds and Jackman's portrayals of these characters, rather than being a substantial organic story, something that will really propel the MCU going forward within its Phase 5. It just seems like it's going to be a very much one and done, throwaway, disposable installment. Now, I've seen some complaints online about the inclusion of the TVA appearing, requiring some background watching of the previous MCU, most likely the Loki series, but you're always going to get that with a massive crossover like this. There has to be some exposition or explanation of the universes that the characters originate from before bringing them together. You can't just have Wolverine pop up alongside Deadpool, because this is very much the Hugh Jackman version that we've seen from the Fox movies. Now, if this was a completely new version of Wolverine, that's something you could definitely do. But because we are using previous versions, there has to be some sort of reference as to where they've come from before. Again, we saw this with Spider-Man No Way Home, where a good chunk of the movie was spent with the three Spider-Man versions talking about where they had come from previously. And that's really the whole design of connecting these continuities together whenever you get these big crossover events. It's part of the fun if you really think about it. And using the Time Variance Authority is probably the most logical way of crossing over Deadpool to the MCU. I suppose it could generate a lot of laughs seeing how Deadpool will adjust to working with the Authority before breaking free, and we have those scenes where we see him looking at the various TV shots showing all of the previous moments within the MCU. But more than likely, we're probably going to see more cameos, I would expect, from the Fox universe rather than the MCU universe. So really don't go into this movie expecting to see the likes of Thor or Guardians of the Galaxy or indeed Doctor Strange. Having characters like that would probably take away the spotlight too much away from Deadpool, and despite this team up, he still is very much the lead character. But we do wonder, at the end of the movie, will Deadpool end up constantly within the MCU? And will Hugh Jackman's version actually be the Wolverine from the Fox movies, or will it be just another variant? We've seen this tactic used to an extent with the Daredevil series being brought forward to Disney+, especially with the use of Kingpin, which is another variant as opposed to the actual version that was used from the Netflix show. And this is again a frustrating aspect of this whole multiverse storytelling, because it really does take away the stakes if one variant can just be replaced with another. Where's the danger? Where's the jeopardy? But we'll likely see what happens when, in the upcoming months, when Deadpool 3 finally releases at around July 2024 this year. Whatever happens, I'm pretty much sure it will be amongst the biggest films of 2024. Now, the next trailer, and probably the best one, was the Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which is the fourth entry in the recent Apes franchise, which overall is essentially a long prequel to the first classic Charlton Heston movie from the 60s. Now, as an individual trailer, it was fine. The effects are absolutely quality, as they've always done with these films. It has the same serious, action-orientated, very much somber tone than what we saw with the previous entries, which is good. Now, my main issue with this project itself is we asked the question as to why it has to exist. After the third film, we pretty much reached a definitive conclusion where we saw Caesar's death and we saw the next generation of apes living free within the world. So if we really think about it, there's not really a lot more story that you can really tell with this franchise. Now, in terms of the plot, this project is set around 300 years after the third entry, where we have a much more ruthless leader called Proximus Caesar, and he's hunting down the scarce amount of human population within the land. We then have a young ape named Noah who connects with a human girl named Nova, played by actress Freya Allen, who we all know as the role of Ciri from the Netflix Witcher series, and Noah will end up protecting the young girl from the ruthless rule of the Proximus Caesar. And when I watch this trailer, it already gives vibes of a narrative that we've probably seen already, especially from the second Apes movie, which was much more a civil war, if you like, between the rival ape nations, where we see Caesar bringing up a resistance against the more evil, antagonistic ape clan. And in the role of Noah, he's clearly a similar role than what we saw with Caesar playing already. And a human girl known as Nova unfortunately gives all of those vibes of the girl being the key to everything. And this is something that we see all far too often. So I'm pretty much sure as we get further trailers and more in-depth details of the story, we'll get the usual accusations of pushing feminist agenda that we see all too often within entertainment. And to be honest, with this trailer, whilst it was fine, there's nothing here that was offered that we really haven't seen already within the previous films. The scenery and the tone all looks the same as before. It's not as if there's some mutated species or some hugely important antagonist that will draw conflict with the apes. As I said already, this being the fourth entry, there's not really a lot more that you can do going forward. But we'll wait and see what happens when this movie releases, which I think is around May time this year. The third movie didn't prove to be quite as successful as the second film, which I believe grossed over $700 million, released in the summer. So I could probably see this film probably grossing anything of around maybe $200 to $400 million when everything is said and done overall. And the last big trailer of the Super Bowl was going to Twisters. This is the sequel to the massively successful first movie, directed by Jan de Bont in 1996. I can vividly remember going to the cinema at the time. The first movie generated a lot of hype for its very groundbreaking effects at the time. We really hadn't seen this type of natural disaster produced on a big screen before. And of course, the continuing lack of creativity within Hollywood, continuing looking to cash in on recent or past successful movies. And that's very much the same here. And I just don't see the reason for this movie to exist. Nobody was asking for a sequel to Twisters. When we look at the trailer itself, the effects are absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong in particular with the characters that we see on the screen. But it very much just covers a rerun of what we saw from the original. Of course, the difference this time is that there are multiple tornadoes for the scientists to go after rather than the singular one that what we saw from the first film. But the main problem with Twisters as a concept is where can you really take it? It's more about the scientists trying to capture the data within a tornado. There's no way that they can combat the threats. They can't assemble a laser ray and just shoot the tornado down. It's just basically a tale of survival. But again, we've already seen that, and there's no way that you can broaden the concept in any way. Again, there's nothing here that we haven't already seen within the first movie. Even the cast of actors have a very similar look to what we saw with both Helen Hunt and Bill Paxton from the original. So again, this is just recreating what's gone on before. Who knows, it could be a decent entertaining watch overall. It's not really offering to do anything different, but this isn't something I'm really interested in at all. It's just, again, another way of retracing old steps and producing what's gone on before. So no real interest in twisters from me overall. So there's my overall thoughts and quick feelings on the recent Super Bowl trailers for 2024, giving a slight hint of some movies that could turn out to be amongst the biggest throughout the year. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and if you have any other suggestions regarding any other movies, television series, or any other topics within the pop entertainment and culture scene that you'd like to see me cover, then also let me know in the comments, and I will see if I could find further content to produce for you on the channel within the future. Please also hit like the subscription and notification buttons so I can provide you with more high quality content like this in the future. But that's it for now. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you very, very soon.